G'day, today I'm going to be talking about the new generation Toyota Hilux, which was revealed yesterday. And as far as new vehicle reveals go, especially here in Australia, you don't get much bigger than a Toyota Hilux. I will talk a little bit about the car, but there are other outlets for that have had the car in person and stuff like that, so they can give you a better idea about the nuts and bolts. But what I want to talk about mainly is Toyota's approach to this vehicle, because it has been quite, controversial or contentious. And it's especially for such a volume selling vehicle, it's not as new as you might expect for a new generation car. Initially, it was thought that the new Hilux would move to the TNGA platform, which underpins the 300 series Land Cruiser, the Tundra, Tacoma, 250 series Prado. But as we got closer to the reveal, it seemed more and more certain that Toyota would essentially update the current Hilux, and that's what's happened. It's called the IMV platform. So if you've seen the car, obviously new styling, I think it looks quite cool. You may think otherwise, that's fine. The big thing has been the updated interior, bigger screen, more modern tech, bigger digital instruments, all that sort of stuff, which the Hilux really, really needed, because even the current generation Hilux is well over a decade old. So it definitely needed a refresh. But I guess the nuts and bolts, the bones of the car are still pretty similar. It will have been revised for sure. But the platform, the same, suspension, kind of the same, engine is still the same. They've discontinued the entry-level 2.7 petrol and 2.4 diesel. So now it's essentially 2.8 litre, 4-cylinder turbo diesel across the range, mild hybrid on most models, especially the ones that will be bought by private buyers. Outputs are still the same, 150 kilowatts, 500 newton meters for the auto, 420 newton meters for the manual, 6-speed auto and manual. I'm a bit surprised by that. I thought they might go for an 8-speed auto like in the Prado for a bit better efficiency, but no, still 6-speed auto, 6-speed manual, same outputs, same engine, same platform. So really we do have pretty light revisions as far as new vehicles go. So I've been a lot of chat about this, and people saying, oh, it's the downfall of Toyota, and the Hilux's time at the top is over and stuff like that. And with respect, I think that shows perhaps a lack of understanding of the car industry. I'm not necessarily an expert in terms of, car business, but I wanted to explain what I think is Toyota's thinking behind this. I saw Sean Hanley, who is Toyota Australia's Vice President of Sales and Marketing. He is typically Toyota Australia's main spokesperson, and he was very punchy with journos, saying, effectively, we don't really care what you think. We care about what customers think. And he's right. That's what matters. It matters what customers think. And there is an element of don't fix what isn't broken. I mean, the Hilux isn't a class leader. Sorry, Toyota, it's not. And has been out quite a long time, but remains there or thereabouts as Australia's best-selling vehicle. So clearly the fact that it's an older car and not cutting edge does not bother a Hilux customer one little bit. So the fact that they haven't changed the engine, they haven't changed the chassis and stuff like that, I don't think is going to really annoy Hilux customers or turn them off. It may even be a benefit, because they'll see it as trustworthy and proven and things like that. They'll get a nicer interior, which will probably be appreciated by most people. So I think that from that point of view, makes perfect sense. But there's also a wider industry implication here, in that there's so much uncertainty at the moment around powertrains and future emissions and stuff like that. Toyota has announced that there's going to be a battery electric Hilux next year, mainly for fleets. I suspect that's mainly to satisfy the mining industry that are sort of clamoring for a zero emissions Hilux, and they won't need necessarily a lot of range then, because it's going to be working on site, etc., etc. So there are two ways to look at this, right? With my enthusiast hat on, or my journalist hat on, you want each car to be as good as it possibly can be, right? You want the manufacturer to put its best foot forward and make whatever vehicle that is, whether it's a supercar or a ute or a family car, as good as it possibly can be within resources and time and stuff like that. And Toyota has that capability. It could have done a Ford Ranger. With the latest Ranger, Ford really tried to make the ute as good as it possibly could be, dynamically and towing and payload and technology and all that sort of stuff, new powertrains. Whereas Toyota has rolled the arm over in a sense. It could do that and it hasn't. It said, we want to do what we think we need to do to keep relevant. And it's got form in this area, GR86. It's heavily updated the original car, but it still was an update of the original car. It got a new engine and stuff like that, but the platform was the same. Latest Camry is probably closer to the Hilux approach, where it took the previous generation car and, again, updated it, new looks, new interior, some new engineering work, but effectively was an update of the previous car. And that works quite well as to use as a case study, because Toyota doesn't seem to think that the ute segment is going to grow a lot from what it thinks we've reached peak ute, right? It thinks the overall ute segment sales is going to remain static, but we've got lots of new entrants coming in. We've got the MG U9, the BYD Shark, the Kia Tasman, Hyundai wants a piece of the pie, etc., etc. So therefore, it thinks its sales are going to go down a bit. I think the current generation Hilux peaked at over 60,000 sales a year. This one they think is going to be around 40,000. So, which is like the Camry. Medium-sized sedans, large sedans is a declining segment. So therefore, why would you invest heavily in it? Add to that, there's so much uncertainty around powertrains, around emissions targets, around ICE bans. Will it happen in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? So with my business hat on, it's not going to say necessarily a masterstroke, but perhaps the obvious way to go for Toyota is to keep its powder dry, to say, we don't know what's going to happen in this segment. We don't think it's going to grow. So therefore, why would we spend $1 billion, $1.5 billion reinventing the wheel, essentially, when we think our customers are going to be perfectly happy with an updated version of the Hilux? Because sales are great, okay? Volume sales are important because there's factory capacity that needs to be satisfied and stuff like that. You get economies of scale. But the other way to make money, which Toyota is exceptionally good at, is profit margin. For instance, 70 Series Land Cruiser, perfect example. I don't know what one costs to make, okay? It can't be very much because there's not very much in it, but they charge big dollars for it and they've got a huge order bank for it. So, yes, the Hilux may go down a bit in sales. Maybe it won't even be number one. Maybe it'll cede number one status to the Ranger. But if the whole program cost 300 million, 400 million, 500 million instead of 1.5 billion, then Toyota's laughing all the way to the bank, because on those 40,000 sales, maybe they'll make 10, 15, 20, 25% margin, which is a lot smarter way of going about business than going all in. Here's our new plug-in hybrid, super powerful, cutting edge Hilux that probably wouldn't sell any more than what this vehicle will, but would have cost a hell of a lot more to make. And we see this as a total approach. On EVs, they went, not sure about it. We're going to wait and see how the landscape matures. And that's paid off very well for them. They've gone all in hybrid, and now they can start investing in EV. Now there's more of a clear path forward. And they get very criticized for this. Toyota, from environmental groups, they said they should be a leader, and maybe they should. You could make an argument that as the world's largest car company, maybe they should be a leader in pushing things forward, but they're also a business. They need to make money. They need to satisfy shareholders. So I think that the criticism of the Hilux maybe doesn't take into account the whole picture. Maybe I'm wrong. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Let me know whether you think Toyota's just been super lazy and they're going to lose their market dominance and they're going to end up selling 10,000 of these things a year because people don't want a carryover platform, or maybe you think that they've got it spot on and that it's another example of Toyota reading the market very nicely and that they'll be laughing all the way to the bank because, yeah, they haven't spent a whole lot of money necessarily or a whole lot of time updating this Hilux, but it's exactly what customers want, and it gives them flexibility going forward in terms of investing in future powertrains. So thanks for watching. That's my thoughts on the new Hilux. Love to know yours. Thanks for watching and see you next time.